And games now.
Okay.
Now it's
How about this?
I hear Sam.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I hear everyone.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yes, we're good. We're fine.
Thank you for catching up with us, stream.
Okay.
Appreciate you showing up. It's just like I'm looking at my buttons going, everything's lit up. I've got my, what's going, okay, so it's Twitch. Never mind then. Okay.
We're fine.
So let's try that again. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back for the next for the next episode of Unlawful Disorder: A Twist of Fate. So let's do the recap, because a little bit went on last session. A few things we'll probably want to talk about, and then we'll dive right back into it. So, Alexandre, what does Alexandre recall of the events of last session?
We finally made it to Glitter Delta Cove.
Mm-hmm.
We checked in at a very strange B&P and IPB, many letters, something sleep, something eating, something drinking. We tried drinking a little. Lucas tried drinking a lot. And an ebon elf came in.
Mm-hmm.
And was searching for us specifically.
Okay.
And said we should go and meet him at sundown. We draw at sundown. Not what I meant. And then we went and we found, or we tried to find a ship.
Okay.
But I haven't decided who we're going with yet, and it is very clearly my choice. So, yes.
Okay. Spider. Wait a second. Spider and Chevalier are in the wrong boxes. Gentlemen, thank we out. That's the Spider I was looking for. Much better. Spider. How awkward.
Yeah, mate.
Looking for Spider and seeing a Chevalier. Awkward. Spider, tell us a little bit about what happened last time we were chatting.
Well, we finally arrived in Glitter Delta Cove after a long discussion about what to do with the pirates that attacked us. Foolishly, I might add, given that they got their asses handed to them. And look, we took a very merciful, if slightly misguided, tack of leaving them on their ship.
And so
oh wow, it's been a day.
Was I there?
What? But I gave the pirate captain a bit of a heads up about somewhere he might find better employ back in the Shining Capital. So, for the best luck to them, and hopefully they just won't be bothering us again.
Yep.
Other than that, I've sort of mostly been kicking back and letting the others do the work for now.
All right. Chevalier. Thoughts and commentary on the events leading up to the complex yet so simple situation you find yourself in.
We have arrived in Glitter Delta Cove, which in all likelihood will be the last city within the Confederacy that we are in before we make our way to Dusseldorf, and from there, Cliff Spider. We have found accommodation, and we were not approached. Mr. Edgewater was approached with potential offer for work. Once we had established accommodation, once we had a chance to collect ourselves, we then went to the dock to try to ascertain how best to get to Düsseldorf, which ships were going there, which would be most convenient for our purpose. Alexandre, it was good to see her in her element once again, doing something she's more comfortable with.
Michelle, could you pump up the sound, please?
Can I pump up the sound?
Pump up the sound, up the sound.
You didn't need to do that. You really didn't need to
I
do
did.
that.
You saw it. You saw the need.
That better? Is that...
I'm waiting to hear from Dr. Vesuvius.
We are waiting to hear from Dr. Vesuvius, the good doctor. You don't know how to say this, but no sound. Okay. Or is it your end? No, I think...
Because I am definitely hearing the stream.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah. Because... Yeah, I have blinky lights on this end, so I'm pretty sure my end is working.
I can hear it myself.
All right, fair enough.
I'm listening to it.
Good?
Yep, keep going.
Maybe? I don't know. Oh, seems to be fixed.
It was
Wunderbar.
It's fine.
All right. So, any other observations about the nature of circumstances?
Myself and the brothers were able to assist Alexandre, and between our efforts, we were able to ascertain two possible options for transport to Düsseldorf, which we will use. Is a matter of discussion, but neither is leaving for at least 2 weeks. We'll need to find time to, well, something to do for that duration.
Okay. Lucas.
Yes. Yes.
So what's Lucas? What's Lucas's recollections and feelings on current circumstances?
Current circumstances. Well, I think Lucas is at a bit of a crossroads.
Oh.
He is very confused, mostly by Alexandre and her ability to become a sex goddess.
Yeah, awkward, isn't it? Goes from being able to, turn walls into projection screens. Now she's sexy. What the hell, right? I mean, does
What
all
happened
things
there?
all.
It was strange, confronting, but also Lucas admires her for that and doesn't quite know what to think. Drooling might have been a description to describe him, but I think that's more shock at the situation. But yes, he was approached by the Ebon Elf, who goes by the name of Aquidian, and Aquidian invited them to meet him at the next sunset. He has a task, possibly something worth their time. So after imbibing a number of scotches or whiskies, I don't know if it was scotch per se, but that's just Drew's wish. It seems that the group seemed okay with the idea that some elf had sought them out and wants their help, even though that we are all trying to be quite hidden, unnoticed.
Weren't trying that hard.
True. We did enter through the main port without any disguises on 2 of us, or all of us.
Yeah.
Look, I offered, mate.
I rolled a disguise check and I did pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't and haven't tried.
Yeah, either.
So we had a robot with
That's not a thing.
We had a robot wearing a mustache and a great coat, looking entirely too convincing, and the rest of you, yeah, not.
No, I definitely.
Excuse me, I rolled like a 36 or something.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. Sorry, I know.
Even we didn't
I
recognize
know
you.
Chevalier had rolled spectacularly, which was why we were all having a good game.
I mean, I rolled spectacularly for Chevalier. It's important clarification.
My disguise as Bill number 27 was impeccable.
Very good.
Someone was specifically searching out a bill, number 27.
It turns out this is all a case of mistaken identity, right? I mean,
What else? I had a chat with my brother.
all right.
That was in the tavern. That was lovely. Nice little chance to connect, seeing as we were on the boat with pirates and people, and finally we had our own room, which was nice. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you've had time at this point to get some food, source a ship. You've spoken to a Quidian. You've got a direction potentially if you want to meet up with him, but that'll be around sundown. That's in a handful of hours. It's just after lunch, I believe, is where we had left it time-wise. So what do you plan on doing for the afternoon? Do you have any plans?
I do.
All right.
Because I was not particularly helpful in our procurement of a ship. I got told off by Hot Captain, whose name we haven't learned yet,
Yes.
but whose ship we will certainly take.
Sure, Alexandria would have got a name. Let's be honest.
Yeah, by now you would have.
For a captain, first name Hot.
Looking for a. Where is she? Come back. Where did you go?
That's just funny.
But in seeing that she seemed to have things well in hand, Alexandria, that is, I want to slink off to try and make some contact with nefarious elements of the city.
All right. So I guess my question is, what are you looking for? What are you looking for, and how are you going about looking?
Yeah. Not being a professional criminal nor thief myself, Michelle, I can't exactly give you the how.
Oh, understood.
But
I'm just more looking. Are you?
Yeah.
Are you? Are you visiting bars and babbling at people and thieves can't to see who bites? Are you? Do you have a particular?
I think it's less bars given the hour of the day, but I'd head to the market district probably.
All right.
And start by identifying the urchins who are doing the pickpocketing and use that to follow them up to whoever's wrangling them.
All
and right. Yeah, I just want to I want to make a connection.
Fair enough. So I posted the link in the chat for those folks who want to follow along. But basically, so that would be taking you to the Great Market. So we'll talk about that. Just since you're sort of going to be the furthest afoot. Now, the other question is, are you going alone? Are you taking?
Yeah. This is definitely like while they're all busy doing the.
All right.
Finding a captain.
All right. Fair enough.
So I have like the knowledge 1 crime feat, which gives me. It sort of depends what kind of role we're going to make, basically.
So there's a couple things I want to draw your attention to as you're heading up. So you're going to be coming up from the district out to the east, down by the docks, warehouses and brokers. Those buildings, by the way, are huge. They're probably the small ones are about 20 meters long, for perspective.
Okay.
All right. These are massive. So that first row you encounter, those are all warehouse buildings, 2 to 3 stories tall, big cavernous structures. You're familiar with them. I mean, you've seen this sort of thing, back in Shining Capital. What sort of surprises you is that they're actually this area here, that first row closest to the docks, they're actually comparable in scale to the ones you're used to seeing in Shining Capital. You sort of had expected that, this far away from the capital, that everything, something like warehouses would be on a bit of a smaller scale, but these would be, these are easily in the same scope as the ones in Shining Capital. So that hints at a very vibrant trade. The second thing I want to point out to you is, do you notice how a lot of the background is sort of that sort of black, mottled brown, gray-black color in the map? Yeah, that's because this entire area was clearly burnt at one point in time.
Interesting.
All right. So a couple things. So there is a very clear set of signs as you're moving along. Interestingly, the warehouses and docks aren't marked, but once you get into that sort of central square area towards the middle of town, you'll find everything around there is very neatly marked, tagged, the way you're used to seeing elsewhere in the Confederacy. So you're heading to the Great Market, which is the southeastern quarter of that area. You have a high enough base perception. I'm not even going to get you to roll. It's very obvious there are two different styles of construction here. Remember I told you that when the inn kind of looked almost alien in its construction. It was, just the way it was put together.
Yeah.
Well, this area looks like it was lifted straight out of your typical town planning book for the Confederacy. Everything inside this square is classic stamp.
Yeah, I can see like how structured it is, despite it being like a market.
Yeah,
that seems very Confederate.
Yep. So there's obviously, it's almost, for lack of a better way of putting it, your impression is it's almost as though there's a town inside the city.
Okay.
All right. So when you get to the Great Market, a couple things are going to strike you almost immediately. I mean, so obviously, it's an absolute collage of sight, smell, sound. There are, every one of those tents probably has got 5 people in around it, or hawking or buying. So the place is just teeming with people, right? And some of those places are selling foods. Some of them are prepared foods or ingredients. There's just heaps of stuff going on around here. The outer edge buildings are all permanent. That's obvious. So there's actual, and you can, if you take a little bit of the artwork, you can sort of get an idea. There's just everything from a blacksmith's foundry to a shoemaker to someone who specializes in making fine jewelry. That's sort of that outside edge. The inside edge is all tents, stalls, booths, stuff like that. But you can't help but notice that all of them, for example, there's grass that has grown up around all the guy wires. In other words, they've been here a while. So while they're, quote, temporary structures, they've been here long enough that the lawn has grown up around them. Follow me?
Yeah, for sure.
So what I will ask you to do is I'll ask you to pick 2 skills and tell me how they apply in your attempt to sort of pin down the who's who of the food chain here.
Yeah, well, I think the first is perception.
All right.
And it's about like just getting the lay of the land and starting to spot the street rats who are, preying on the not so wise folks amongst the the market general.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's see that roll or hear that roll.
What is the challenge level for this roll? I have to ask because it's relevant to my feat.
It's relevant.
The challenge rating.
Yes, no, understood. Let me just 1 sec. I'm going to need to stare at that. My default setting is if you roll high enough, I don't bother worrying about challenge.
Yeah, no, I know.
If it's a dubious roll, then I start.
So because this is related to my area of knowledge, crime.
Yeah.
If a 16 would pass, I automatically pass.
All right. So if that's the case, then you automatically pass. So a 10 is every day. A 15 would be challenging. Oops, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's relevant because like I pass 16 or lower, and if it's above that, I get an advantage. So I do need to ask that.
Yeah, no. The next step up would be heroic, and spotting street rats is not heroic. I'm just going to use that language. So even if they're incredibly competent, they are challenging to law authorities. They're casually obvious to you.
That said, my next act, whilst it might also fall under the knowledge crime feat, I think is more questionable, which is that I'm going to like corner one of these street rats and lie my way and bluff my way through them to work out who they work for and get them to take me there. So I think it's a deception roll.
I think that's probably appropriate, yes. Yeah, to me, you could go at it one of two ways, deception or intimidation, but yeah.
So because I have a 4 in deception, I have to roll a d20 and a d10. Sorry, I'm just going to move my mic for a moment while I figure out where the hell my dice are.
Yeah, I realized during the intro, wait a second, we roll dice in this game. Hang on. I was rummaging in the background. Well,
All right, we're back.
Speaking.
Oh, but I also have advantage. Okay, there we go. There's another d10. So that's what advantage is, right? I roll the
Yes.
second die an extra time.
Yeah, for every level of advantage, then you roll your skill dice an extra time.
Okay, well, Michelle, I hit another nat 20, so it's going to be an interesting roll. Total of 30.
Wow. All right. So it becomes obvious to you through your observation, and the first kid, by the way, gets away from you, which
Sure.
is which actually surprised you. I mean, keep in mind you used to run your own gang, but it sort of is a hint that there's a little bit more polish in all of this madness than perhaps it looks. So that the next time you're a little bit more circumspect about it. There's a different flavor, if you will, of thievery here than in Shining Capital. So the first kid, in fact, basically, as he runs off, yells something at you along the lines up, yells something at you along the lines of "piss off" or "they'll see you after dark," and you're not sure what the significance of that means. But just one second here. I'm double checking a name before I say something that makes no sense. Come on, bloody thing. So, more details. There we go. One sec. I'm just like I say, I'm just double checking. Yes, there we go. So basically what you find out from one of the other street rats, and this is this is a process. This isn't instant. This takes you the better part of an hour. While the rolls are remarkably good, it's still a time-consuming process. So you're probably hanging out around the time it takes you to case the place, figure out which ones are the ones with links. Try and run the first one down, have them get away and yell at you, and then reassess and then go. It takes you probably well over an hour to get to the point where you're chatting with a slightly scruffy-looking dwarf who one of the street kids has led you to. Mm. He's a burly chap, bit of a pick nose to him, tattooed. It looks like he's got a perpetually black eye, by which I mean it literally looks as though he's had actually the area around his eye done as a tattoo, as though he's been punched in the face.
Yeah, cool. I like this guy already.
And he's got this kind of way of dipping his head and looking over. It's just literally because he's got such like I said, a bit of a pick nose. So he kind of looks this sort of arc of disdain across the top of his the crest of the nose. And he says, "And what do you want?"
Did I get a
you?
Did I get a name for this guy from the kid?
Yeah. 1 sec while I look it up, because otherwise I'm going to quote you the wrong person. Yeah, it's Dabar.
Dabar.
DAH-BAHR. Dabar.
Oh, I like the name. Cool. Yeah, and so, I mean, I'm still disguised at this point as some nondescript.
Yes, it's Bill 27, yes.
As Bill 27, exactly. Yeah, and so, yeah, when I get to him, I drop straight into, like, the thieves can't talk, and but I say to him, apologies for the somewhat deceptive nature of my making your acquaintance, Mr. Darbar. I'm new in town and I don't plan staying long or getting in anyone's hair, but my friends and I have been approached by a strange fellow by the name of Equidium, and I needed someone with some sense about them to tell me what they know about the chap.
He kind of looks at you with a bit of a... It's just... Disdain's not the right word. Wary is closer. It's somewhere in that idea.
It's like guardedness.
Yeah, he clearly doesn't. Yeah, you speak the language, but you wouldn't be the first ranger to speak thieves' cant either. He kind of looks at you sideways. And again, as I noted, over the last week, a cant is a language design, is a language of synonyms. And so it sounds like you're having one conversation while having another. So if you're an outsider, it's either completely impenetrable in terms of making no sense whatsoever, Cockney rhyming slang's an example, or it just sounds like you're having a conversation entirely about something else. So
sorry for dropping in on you while you're at tea, but I needed some toast about
exactly right.
toast with butter on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's exactly the sort of thing. So there's this sort of this audio disconnect, if you will, between what's everyone else is hearing and what you two are hearing. So he kind of looks at you, Aquidian, huh? Let me just roll that and see if he recognizes the name. He ought to. It's one of those names that doesn't ring any bells for free.
Fair enough. And I have access to wealth level 2. I would be carrying some coin with me.
I would say you've got a particularly given recent events. It's perfectly reasonable that you'd have a small pouch of coins.
I take a plot appropriate sized pouch of coins out of my coat and I put it on like a crate, sort of midway between us, and then take a step back.
He nods. Yeah, he's been around a long time, that one, but he's not the boss. His kind of guys never are, right? But don't mistake him. Powerful fella. He's got long arms, sharp fingers, but he pays well. He's one of those types that the dock workers all know that he pays his bills.
Well,
that's who I'm with, by the way. There's two of it. There's two camps in this town you'll need to make friendly with. The camp I sleep in, which is the dock workers, and the other one's the lamplighters. Be careful of them. They're awful bloody territorial to outsiders.
Like I say, I don't have any plans to get in anyone's hair. And Equidium, he's a third party.
Oh, yeah.
Whoever he works for.
Works for himself. Got his fingers in lots of pies. Likes to lick the juices off.
Well, that being the correct case, it's been a pleasure.
Wish I could say the same.
I grin at him wickedly and I say, well, I guess your drinks are on me tonight either way. And I just turn and walk out.
All right. Anything else you're up to for over that span of the first half of the afternoon?
Not for me. I'll go and see how the group are doing in securing a captain.
I think it's plot appropriate, if you will, that they're all getting back to the blue skies about the same time you do. Like I say, it takes a little while for Chevalier and Lucas to wrap up the sideshow that was Alexandria, attracting half of the dockyard.
Move
I'm
along,
sorry, did you
move
just say
along.
sideshow?
This is the
When you
main
mentioned
stage
main
attraction.
event, is this what you...
Chevalier and Lucas are the sideshow. We had our follow-up act.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, and that is how we disperse the crowd.
So, yeah. Anyone, any questions thus far? All right. So you folks.
Oh, yes.
What's that?
What is the captain's name? And who is
okay,
the halfling captain? Who are these two people that I've made acquaintance of?
Right. 1 sec while I grab 2 names for you. Where'd I put it? I do this badly.
I think we also need to know if the halfling is hot.
I also need to know if it's. I mean, if they both have the first name Hot, there's a problem. Hot 1 and Hot 2. Like I've got to.
Also, how many people in their crew they have that are hot as well.
Hot crew. Hot crew 1, Hot crew 2, Hot captain 1, Hot captain
Right.
2.
I
So
mean, I'm just assuming everybody in this world is hot. So,
Right, so they've got a hot captain, but that entire crew of halflings is just gorgeous.
decisions.
Where
Right,
things get
folks?
difficult.
like,
Yes, exactly.
average 9 out of 10, or with. Yeah.
All right. So the lass that basically told that told Spider to get the hell out with his commentary was named Avranta. It's in her case the vessel is primarily a cargo hauler. But bluntly, she was more than willing to sort of change up a kind of. Do you remember the errant departure? My comment was that what they were doing is they had rooms that they could either pack full of cargo or put passengers into. And so they basically reconfigured the ship every trip depending on what was needed by literally shuffling furniture around. Well, that's the bulk of Ronta's ship is just a cargo. It's a cargo box with sails, but they've got a half dozen of these cabins for the odd person who wants to be sailing along. Andwise Hochberg is the halfling captain, as I commented. The entire
I'm
vessel.
sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, I'll actually post the names here in a sec.
Okay, thank you.
Andwise, the whole ship, of course, is a halfling clan. It's the Hochbergs. And well, they're one of a group of, but everyone on the ship is related. They're one of 5 ships who are all part of the same group of, all part of the same halfling family. So, and that's basically their clan thing, is they're all sailors. They are just, so, and in their case, their vessel is much more of a 50-50 split. The advantage to that is that you'd be coming in a vessel that would have other passengers on it. So if you're planning on not being visible, that is sort of your number one. That would be a better option. There is going to be a potential engineering issue, which is that the ship is built for tall halflings, which means Alexandre fits just fine, less so Chevalier. I mean, like a tall human has to duck a little bit, but Chevalier's taller than a tall human.
Now is the time for us to find out that Chevalier actually has like clips on his sides and can just.
He just like folds double, and this halfling actually just gets out. Just walks into the ship.
Halfling driving a battle mech, yeah.
Might be a gnome.
Surprise!
Oh my god, it's like Men in Black.
So
It's going to be a gnome from me.
oh no!
Get out.
Stop that! Stop that now! All right, just 1 sec. Putting notes in chat for you all, so you can just copy names appropriately. There you go.
Oh, by the way, Michelle,
Yeah.
can I just commend your map? Like, I'm looking at the market, and almost every tent or building is different. It's quite incredible.
Well, thank you. Yeah, there's over 20 odd hours of work in this.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
those of you watching who don't know, Michelle streams his GM preparation on 902p Gaming, and you should check it out because you can see him creating this map and others, and it's rad.
Thank you. That's very kind. So yeah, so I had a ton of fun making this for you folks, but that's also why you're not getting a ship for the next 2 weeks, just so we're clear.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, we have to stay.
Oh no.
Here for
I mean, we want to. We want to see the city.
We want to. Yeah.
Like I say,
That was kind of a meanwhile situation. I was going to be like, so while Spider's doing that, can we go somewhere else? Look at it.
So I'm going to say, just because it's me as a GM, am perpetually terrified of split groups because that's invariably when the dice are mean to somebody. I'm going to say that basically Spider catches up with you all as you've gotten back to the inn after having basically come down to one of two possible ships. So, for purposes, unless stated otherwise. Oh, by the way, sorry, one thing at a time. As a reminder, if you actually want to see the places of interest, if you go to the map, there's the picture, what looks like three little pieces of paper, top right corner. If you turn places of interest on, you'll see the little blue mug appears up in the Red Bricks district. That's where the Blue Skies Inn is. And that's where you guys are staying, just for benefit of folks trying to find it. So you're going to get back to the inn for purposes unless I give you fair warning otherwise, for lack of a better way of putting it. Presume that the Blue Skies Inn is functionally a safe place. In other words, there are so many other adventurers going around. The town guard isn't going to be scouring the place. They just don't like getting into fights there. Likewise, it's sort of a neutral ground in that anyone who wants to pick a fight with you isn't going to want to pick a fight in the adventurer bar where there's a whole bunch of people with heavy weapons who want to get a good night's sleep and have a drink in peace. The problem with picking fights in adventurer bars is it's full of adventurers, right? Or the people who feel perfectly reasonable hanging out with adventurers. So by extension, the Blue Sky Inn is mostly a safe spot. It is exceedingly unlikely you're going to get pot-shotted there. So just, I'm establishing that now as meta, if you will, so that you guys can for roleplay purposes, you can relax. Anytime you're at the inn, you don't have to worry about me kicking in the wall and having the villain SWAT team arrive or something foolish. Fair game anywhere else, if you will, but not here. All right. So, what do you guys meet back at the inn, and what's the discussion? What's the plan? What's the scene?
Yeah, what do I walk in on? The three of you have returned, and
I'm going to say they get.
You're
back
at the pub.
I'm going to say they got back before you did. So yeah,
it's probably around lunchtime, right?
it's
Didn't we set off?
Good afternoon. We just had lunch.
Yeah,
That
it
was
was
Oh, I thought we had breakfast.
We set off
Okay, yeah,
after
cool.
lunch, so
yeah. So yeah, to me, I've got it. I've got it. Your mid to late afternoon is a time window, roughly.
Right, and we need to go meet this guy at what, sundown?
Yeah,
Right, 'cause of the
and it's
sun
you guys are
sensitivity.
mid-spring, so you've got another few hours. You got another handful of hours yet before that's a thing. I'll pose the obvious question: do you know where the Lake of Ancestors is?
I wanted to go.
I know
Like,
where it's
let's
on the
find
map.
it.
Yeah, so just
I can see it on the map,
Yes.
but that
I
doesn't
read
mean
the,
that
I read the
character
description
knows.
and went, oh yeah, that's okay.
That sounds fun, but Alexander doesn't know.
Well, that was more my point. Yeah, the players might know where they're going, but do the characters?
Oh, we don't know. Okay, Lucas is going to go over to the nearest couple that are eating and say, "Excuse me."
And so this pair look up at you. Yeah.
I'm new around here. The Lake of Ancestors. Where shall one find it?
And they kind of look at each other. It's a couple of guys, and they kind of look at each other, and they look back at you. And they're just trying to figure, and you can almost see that moment of looking around for the hidden camera. Like, okay, are we on, like, just for laughs or something? Is this, no, this seems serious. Okay. Take the North Road south all the way to the bottom. You can't miss it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Enjoy your meal. Hope it's to your liking.
Thanks. And they look back at each other and look around the room again. Just.
Yeah, great. I walk over to Alexandria and Chevalier and I tell them exactly that. Those fine gentlemen over there, they told us to follow the North Road south.
Why not just ask the bartender?
They were closer.
Why did you walk over to...
They seemed friendly.
Okay.
They were smiling.
Yeah, okay.
Imagining scarred veterans.
I think they went quite well. I walked away unstabbed.
There's criteria. When you're hanging out with Spider, you can tell when things go well, no one's been stabbed.
We had a conversation. No one died.
Speaking of, a nondescript man who you barely recognize walks into the bar and comes and just sits down at your table.
If you're looking for the lake, you got to take the South Road.
Punch him in the arm.
Really waiting for Spider to then walk in and be like, you're in my seat.
So how'd it go?
Hi, Jasper.
It's Bill.
Bill. Oh. It went well. I think we have two captains in mind. Alexandre, what do you think?
Captains?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Two.
Well, I think we should choose one of them because they're the best.
But which one do you think?
Put on quite a show, lass.
Yes. It got the job done.
Oh, no, I wasn't
it
complaining.
definitely did. Got the job done.
And just so we're clear, are you ready to make good on the kind of debts you're accruing?
I'm sorry, what?
I look at Lucas. He has no idea. I look at Chevalier and I'm like,
I mean, he's not giving you anything, but like he said,
you got chutzpah and you got skill, girl, but I don't think you know what you're doing. I can't hear you at all, Chantal.
Oh dear.
There we go, I can hear you now.
Great. You haven't told me what it is that I'm doing yet, so I don't know what it is that I'm doing. You haven't said it.
I mean, it looked to me like you were seducing those people. You know what happens next, right? They get seduced.
Alexandre, if you want to have a conversation about what it means to break people's hearts, I'm always ready to talk about it.
A perpetual broken heart, Lucas is.
No, I'm saying that I yes.
I am very confused.
Me too. But
Alexandre,
I
when
get
two
my brother-
people love each other very much,
No, I don't need that talk.
that's not canon.
I need,
That's
the,
not
I
canon.
need the ones that talk. I don't need it. Don't give it to me. I don't want it.
I believe Mr. Kilcare is worried that the captains will want to have sex with you, and that he is concerned you are not prepared for that consequence.
The joys of a plain-spoken robot.
It's really useful for me that Chevalier's face can't move.
The voice from behind the kabuki
he was
mask.
just grinning like an idiot that whole conversation. It's like, yay.
Oh. No.
Right, well, it's a good thing you're well protected then. You should always carry protection.
Somebody clip that, please. Somebody clip that. And that's it. We're back, folks.
In unlawful disorder, protection carries you.
And the hits just keep coming. Oh, gosh.
So does that mean we go with none of them?
It doesn't have to, but just be
Like I
careful what
said.
sort of promises you make.
Like I said, Alexandre, if you need any help in breaking people's hearts, I'm happy to give you some advice.
What do you do to people?
It's a fine balance of keeping them interested but letting them down easily.
Well, you do the second half. So
Ow.
That hurts. But I see your point.
You know, I think she's going to be fine, actually.
I think so too. I think so too. So, when are we going, and what's for dinner? And oh, Lord, you look at the time. I'm going to head upstairs and quickly wash my face.
what? We didn't decide which captain to go with.
I trust you. And
This
gonna
Avronta, she doesn't sort of look like, and I described Avronta because she told me off before.
Yep, that's exactly what she looks like, in fact. You're muted again, Shanta.
I'm not. No, I'm not.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick that one. It's your choice, of course, Princess, but she's rude.
Why you?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's a roguish charm.
What makes Elle different from you?
Well, she was rude to me.
Right. I see.
I mean, she doesn't know who I am, to be fair, so...
That is fair.
Halfling clans are a hell of a ride. Highly recommend.
But they also have an halfling-sized ship.
I look at Chevalier. Back to you. Good point.
I do not need all that much shelter. I could just stay on the deck.
It's not like hypothermia is a thing, is it?
Aren't you rusting, though, Tin Can?
I will be okay.
All right, well, you're cool. I'm also going to go clean up before our meeting.
All right.
Okay.
So what does cleaning up involve for Lucas? I have a suspicion that was Lucas can't.
It was. I would say it is. He's literally washing his face and saying, "The fuck!" Like he's just embarrassed. Actually, washing the shame from his face. Yeah, I think. Yeah, he is, and I think there'll be a moment when he's like at the basin in his room, looking at himself, just like, dude. What was that? Like he talks to himself when Spider walks in, and he's just like, yeah. This city is big.
Yeah. Pretty little place, actually, compared to the shining dung heap.
Where did you go?
I just went for a stroll, met some people, made some friends. Got a bit of a lowdown on this chap we're meant to meet. He's not affiliated with any of the guilds in town, so should be fairly safe meeting with him, depending on what it is he wants us to do.
The guilds in town. You mean?
The scary criminals, Lucas.
Well, that does make it a little easier.
You all right, mate? You look a bit flush, eh?
I'm fine. I'm absolutely
You
fine.
know, I've got fever.
Look, it's coming down. Just a bit of heat stroke from being outside on the docks. It's quite warm out there.
Oh, I'm put my face on.
The Jasper face or the...
Well, yeah, I mean, he's
the Bill face.
currently like as Bill. So that could mean anything.
I think I look at him like, which face?
I haven't quite decided yet, you know?
Well,
I mean, just like peels off the moustache and flings it on the bed.
Yeah, just so we're clear, this isn't a Mission Impossible where everyone pulls masks off all movie.
I think Lucas can't ask the question he wants to ask, so I think he just stays silent. Yeah.
Okay. We're actually going to cut then over to Alexandria and Chevalier, who probably are looking at each other, or at least looking at the retreating back of a very awkward Lucas. Anything you two up to?
Is he okay?
Dealing with. I think he has his own struggles. But I think he is overall fine. I'm sorry, if you said something, you're muted.
Oh, I was muted. Aha.
Yes, that tricky mute button.
Yes. I said okay.
How are you? quite the show.
I am confused. They didn't. I mean, things were different in court.
In court, everyone understands the game. Out here, while you can use many of the techniques, the others aren't going to know that they are playing. We will need to be careful of that. Despite Mr. Kilcare's concerns, I do not think you took things too far. I doubt you have anything to really worry about.
I mean, I really can't help it.
It got us the information we needed. It was a good call.
Do you think it was? Because now does the whole city know we're here?
I think anyone who really wants to know where we are would be able to work it out from the moment we set foot on the dock. While we may have announced ourselves with that display, in the end, there is only so much we could do to disguise our presence while still being able to find the information that we needed to progress. We kind of stand out.
I prefer a life where I don't have to wear veils.
Then don't wear veils. It is not the be-all and end-all of ways to disguise oneself. And there are also other ways, other options of dealing with the situation. We do not always need to hide.
Let's go.
Okay, I think we're actually going to close the scene there. We're going to take a quick break. And unless anyone's got anything that needs to happen, we'll time skip ahead to you guys arriving just outside the gates of the Lake of Ancestors. That work for everybody? Alrighty. So we'll be right back, folks. Quick break. Everyone fill up your glasses and all the good stuff. 3 to 5 minutes, depending how fast it takes us. Folks, so what do you is anything you guys are doing other than just, quote, showing up at sundown?
I am redisguising myself as something and someone different.
Okay.
Alexandria would immediately question that.
I should probably come up with what I look like then.
Yeah, I think so.
Have I got any feel for like the racial distribution of this city, like species distribution, I should say?
It seems pretty for lack of a better way of putting it, it doesn't strike you as any different than anywhere else in the Confederacy. So hang on a second. I will read you the chapter and verse. There's no where we go here. I'm having an awkward. Please hold. Go. Just grabbing the races. Politics. I know I've got this written down somewhere. Anyway. Essentially, the bulk of something like 30 to 40% of the population is going to be human, and then it spreads out with elves, half elves as the next greatest concentration, and then shelves off after that. So yeah, but as I say, there's nothing. I can't find it. I was looking. I know I've got an article on the World Anvil site somewhere with the actual percentages worked out, but I can't find it right now.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I think it might be the Shining Capital page, but
It probably is. Yeah.
but yeah, I think Spider is going to be disguised as an elf then.
All right. Yes, go ahead, Chantal.
Spider, why do you look like an elf?
Well, of course, I thought it was important that we may have some surprises up our sleeve going into a meeting such as this one.
Aquidian has seen us all.
No, he hasn't seen me.
He was sitting at the table when he came in, and he definitely saw me.
Well, he saw Bill.
I'm sorry.
He saw how I was dressed before.
Yes.
I'm not sure I can explain the intricacies of negotiation to you on a short walk through the city.
Well, Aquidian wants to meet with the people that he saw at the inn.
He specifically wants to meet with Lucas. And whoever Lucas's companions are.
Okay.
I didn't think Bill would be of much value to Equidium.
But an elf would be?
An elf of many talents.
Also, don't forget he just spent an hour getting changed. I think it'll take a long time to get out of that costume.
An hour isn't long at all.
Says the woman who's had to wear corsets. Yes. Just in case the players missed it, I have been doing a couple of updates, and one of those things I've done is actually put together some information about the about elves in general. In broad brushstrokes, in the world of Lanogiianes, elves come in roughly 3 flavors, if you will: cloud or high elves, which are the most common ones. They're the ones that everyone thinks of: fair-skinned, swept features, noble bearing, long-lived. They're slightly more rough and tumble cousins are the forest or wood elves. Little bit shorter overall in stature, slightly less obviously fey in terms of skin coloration and things like that. Much less urban dwellers than their hyper-civilized cousins, and then of course the last category are the deep or dark, or the deep or ebon elves, of which Aquidian is one. So if you're going to be playing at being an elf, Aquidian's probably going to expect you to know some social mores that a human might not. In other words, it's easier to pretend to be an elf to a human than it is to pretend to be an elf to an elf.
Yeah, I don't know how language translates into this system, but in D&D I had like going into this level, I would have had Elvish as like a learned language.
I was just going to say, so it's kind of like saying I speak English. Okay, but do you speak American? Do you speak British? Do you speak Aussie?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
American,
like,
is it Texan or New Yorker?
yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like, I have
So
a
speaking,
2 in learning, a 2 in logic, and a 2 in will. Like, Spider
no, you're
picks up these kind of things for this purpose.
Yes, no, Spider's
He
an
is, like-
incredibly crafty and gifted individual. What I just wanted to let you know was you may need to make a couple of rolls. If
Oh,
you
yeah. No, I'm
you may need to hum a few bars and fake it. Is my point.
yeah. Oh no, that's the plan.
Okay,
yeah,
excellent. Okay.
That was expected.
Very good. Just making sure that what I didn't want was to get into the scene and then have everyone go, "Oh, that's not what I meant." So yeah, just wanted to make sure we're cool. All right, good.
No, we're good.
Alrighty then. So yeah, anything else? So Spider is looking very much less like a spider and much more like a a cloud elf or a forest elf.
Yeah, probably the cloud elf would make more sense.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Alexandri, is Alexandri looking like Alexandri, or is she going to look like Spider? Yeah, just to mix things up. right?
Alexandri looks like Alexandri. Alexandri was probably, I don't know, put lipstick on or something,
Yeah.
because doesn't have rest of, clothes, and meeting up with someone who is very clearly noble. Awkward situations could
Yes.
ensue not doing that.
Okay, fair enough. Chevalier, any particular preparations you're making? You're just following along, letting Spider and Alexandre do what they do. How about we use that phrase? It's a fairly neutral phrase, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Lucas?
Lucas has made no effort.
Lucas. Okay, so Lucas looks very much like a Lucas. Got it.
Yeah.
And Chevalier looks very much like a Chevalier. All right then. So as you've all been peeking at the map. So the Lake of what I'm going to actually ask everyone to do, if you've got the map open, top right corner, change the setting to by night so that you actually get to see the colors. And let me grab the RP tool thingy. Where'd it go? Oops, wrong button because I'm clumsy. It's this one I want to grab down.
Are we there fully at night?
It's just about. It's getting to be. When he said, yeah, by definition, meet me there at sundown, 10 minutes later, it's dark.
Right. Okay.
So, so it would be right about there that you'd be meeting. So I just want to make one thing clear in case the map is not hyperbole in this case. So the lighting you see, including that soft green glow that seems to cluster around all of the vegetation around the edge, is actually visible. You do not need to cast the equivalent of detect magic to see that. It's actually a soft green glow radiating off of those areas. Okay? So that's a thing to be aware of. So, like I say, you guys will be arriving. It's sundown. Across the street, there's a chap up on literally with a ladder on he's got a ladder that has wheels on the bottom that he's dragging along behind him, and it kind of leans up against the thing. He drops a kickstand so he can climb up to the lamp, and he's literally going up there and fiddling with the lamp and getting it lit for the evening. The city is becoming more quiet. The rumble that has the frenetic pace of mercantile has dimmed noticeably, but in the same way, it's a better way of putting it is the sound has changed focus and tenor. There were, as you were leaving Red Bricks, that district that the inn is in, there were dozens to hundreds of people streaming into the area. Likewise, while the docks were starting to calm down, you could see a lot of activity in the jet heading to and the merchant area, the grand. One sec, Michelle's having a memory issue with names. Yeah, the Great Market. While the Great Market was closing down. there was obviously a lot of activity happening up around the Gavernois residence. Just it's as though the pulse and focus of the town had rotated, 90 degrees clockwise in terms of its focus. Any questions? As a reminder, one of the things that I pointed out last week, and just as a reminder, this is sort of the busiest single month or 6-week period for the city, is what you've been told. They'll do as much business and see as many travelers in the next 6 weeks as they will for the rest of the year because of the spring flood. That sort of just spikes the entire place to a frenzy. So this place is super busy compared to, anything resembling a normal. So as you're walking along down towards the Lake of Ancestors, like I say, there are people everywhere. But even the color of clothing has changed. It's much more fanciful. It's much more joyous. People have got their party clothes on, for lack of a better way of putting it. And you can see there are groups of folk chatting and laughing as they're moving along. And you all look very much still rather businesslike, I would think, by comparison. And so indirectly, you don't quite fit in, but but you don't fit in very much in the way that tourists never fit into any place they go. No matter how hard they try, they always wind up looking sort of like tourists. The entryway to the Lake of Ancestors is, essentially unguarded. There's an obvious gate that can be closed. It's it's 2 doors, and then what seems to be it's actually, technically it's 4 doors. It's an outer pair of iron bars that can be closed, and then behind that is a much heavier set of timber doors that could be closed. So it would actually be a fairly formidable barrier if someone bothered, but they're both wide open, and there's no one around that you can see anywhere near. Well, like I say, other than the chap across the street lighting the street light currently.
Be wary of the people who work lighting the lamps. They are not what they appear to be.
Look like they are lighting lamps.
You
cannot
are
hear you.
muted, I believe, Jamie.
May not have been speaking loud enough.
Okay.
Indeed, they are, but those who light the lamps see more in the darkness.
Is that some code?
They're criminals,
I mean, you would
Alexandre.
see more if you've lit the lamp.
Yes, Lucas. One of the largest criminal syndicates in the city runs out of that guild.
Oh, well, why didn't you say so?
I would prefer not to be overheard saying such things.
I mean, you could whisper.
You could have told us back at the...
I didn't think of it at the time.
So,
Well, thank you for finally telling us.
So what, we just don't say anything in front of them?
Unless you want to get... It depends what you say. I mean, you can tell them about your bedtime ritual if you like, but don't maybe tell them where you're hiding your treasures. Or...
I don't have any.
Bedtime rituals? Oh, well, you should definitely brush your teeth
Treasures.
more.
Where are we supposed to meet him?
It's a good question.
He said to meet him here. I'm just going to look around.
This place is big.
It's an entire district, Lucas.
Well, you didn't give me much more than that. And then, he said, meet me here, and then he walked away.
All right.
Michelle,
yes.
can I have a look around for?
Yeah. So the first thing, like I say, the lighting here is absolutely atrocious. There's no concession at all being made for anyone to visit at night. Or like, okay, let me rephrase. It's sunset, so it's not as dark as the view you're seeing on the map. That would be in a couple of hours when fully dark. So it's much lighter right now. But even so, looking around, there's going to be no provisions whatsoever to be made for any kind of lighting. You can see with a, I mean, I would say it's pretty much an automatic. Do you see where I've got the red pin there on the map? If you turn roleplay tools on, I think you might be able to see it. But anyway, straight down the main road to the second crossroad, that corner, you can see a group of 3 people standing there. Wearing long cloaks and with their hoods up chatting. And they seem to be the only folks here. For perspective, the road is more like a causeway. It's about a half a meter to a meter on average above what is literally a lake. The entire inside of this area is a massive lake. So, and all of those circle patterns with dots in them that you see on the map are barrows. It's a barrow with a hedge around it. So each one of these is essentially, it looks to be, I'll actually ask you all to make learning rolls. I think is probably, you can either roll learning or perception. Tell me what you get.
$13.
Okay. 13's not...
Got a 5.
5, all right. You're missing some details. A 13, by the way, is halfway between everyday and challenging. It's not a bad roll.
I got a 28.
A 28, fantastic. Eyes are wide open. Well into epic level ogling. Yes, and Alexandri. Muted again. Can't hear you.
Oh, that.
Now we can. Yeah, you're just not talking loud enough.
I got a
think it was
12.
the same issue.
12, all right. So, for whatever reason, I'm going to say that Spider is absolutely convinced that this entire place is artificial. The lake doesn't belong here. It's constructed. What's going to catch Alexandri's eye, if you will, feeling, is the fact that this place feels like a massive gardens. Like you've seen, the family, the upper class, if you will. They're not really supposed to be called that. We don't like that name. That's really tacky. We wouldn't say, the meritocrats, the Sinru, the homes of the Sinru can be well decorated with lavish gardens. And so you're very familiar with the feel of a cultured area, of a place where the terrain has been made into a feeling of both beauty and invitation. And that's the sensation you get out of this entire space. What was Chevalier's role again, please?
13.
13, okay. So you're in the same idea. What's interesting, Chevalier, is this isn't at all Progress Confederacy construction. You've been staring at the way the Progress Confederacy does, hedges, even hedges and flower rows have got the equivalent of a how-to book for fashion in the Confederacy, and this bears no resemblance to any of it. This is, again, it's this vague sensation of almost... alien is one of those words that most people don't understand. It literally means of other culture, in the sense I'm trying to portray it. And so this does have this vague sensation of having no place whatsoever. It just doesn't fit within your understanding of the way the Confederacy does things. So the water, because of the lighting, you really can't tell how deep the water is. You can hear splashing around. You'll see a fish trolling the surface, followed by several other fish, koi or the equivalent. So where you're talking half meter to meter long, beautiful colors, the literal rainbow of color palette in the fish. There are stork and heron, and a few duck wandering around the place. And there's an incredible stillness in the air.
What a quaint place this is.
It's beautiful.
Charming, yes. Strange, though, to be walking so brazenly amongst graves.
Depends on what we're going to do here.
I heard about these things. The tumuli, the familial grave sites. Strange that the Confederacy hasn't stamped out the practice here.
Yeah, the Confederacy's burial practice, by the way, is generally speaking, is incineration and interment.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
funeral pyre, and then a modest grave, basically the size of the size of a plaque in an urn buried in the ground.
It's very peaceful.
Lest we disturb the rest of the dead, eh?
All right. Any questions about anything?
Where the hell are we meeting this guy?
I know. I'm looking for him.
Like I say, the only people that you can see is down the end of the way towards that second intersection along the, as you come in the main gate, there's that sort of central road. And about the second intersection in, you can see three figures, long, heavy cloaks, hoods pulled up, obviously having a conversation based on the hand gestures. But they're the only people here that you can see.
I'm going to continue walking.
All right.
I think I say to everyone, I guess, well, if we can't see him, he'll find us.
Why don't we go towards the people over there?
He didn't say he was bringing friends. Let's
We
go.
didn't say we were going to bring an extra elf. So
Speaking of, as it gets darker, I'm going to shift out of the light whilst these guys walk in it. I'm going to try and stay hidden.
Okay, so the way we'll do that is if somebody needs to make a notice roll, then we'll do it as an opposed roll where you roll and that sets their DC. Make sense? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. So, all right. So, do you look around? Do you walk up to the trio that's standing there chatting? What do you do?
Both those things.
Both those things. All right, then. As you get probably about halfway there, just basically that first intersection, you'll notice one of the three figures will look squarely over in your direction, and you can see the tilt of the head, which is a very clear, I see you sort of body language, and then will turn and tap the shoulder of someone standing beside, and then the trio will turn to look in your direction as you approach. You can see that they're still leaning, the dip of the head as they chat amongst themselves back and forth, but they're clearly watching you approach. They're
Assuming none of them are Aquidian.
at this distance, without it, I'm going to say Spider's pretty convinced the middle one, who's slightly taller than the other two, is Aquidian, but nobody else's rolls were conclusive enough. Particularly in the sort of the bit of the gloom, the lighting, the nature of the barrows is they cast very long shadows, and the entire place, by the way, is inside a 3-meter tall dike. So the outside edge that you can see lit by, if you looked at the day view, you'll see a heavy green line that goes around it, or you can see the light, that green glow in the nighttime view sort of stops. That's a 3-meter tall dike. That's probably a meter tall at the top and almost 3 meters thick at the base. Big mound. It's been turfed. It's been reinforced. There's a revetment on the inside, but yeah, That's so. As a result, the setting sun out of the west is actually being blocked at this point by the height of that wall. And then, as I say, the barrows themselves cast a ton of shadows. So it's actually essentially, if Spider hadn't said, "Yeah, they're over there," with the ridiculous roll he made, I'm not sure you would have initially seen them from the gate. Because they're standing basically in the joint shadow, sort of the collective shadow cone of a couple of the. And that would make sense. You know that the Alexandri for sure would have been told about other elves by Grand Mare. That particularly the Ebons have a skin sensitivity. They just don't straight up like it. Literally, what you call a sunburn, they call a 3rd degree burn. So for them to be, even in this lighting, to be standing somewhere that's chock of shadows makes perfect sense for a group of Ebon elves. All right. So as you approach, you'll notice the shorter of the three is actually going to step off to a side. And literally, if there's two over here, they move the entire width of the road off to a side and fold their hands behind their back. That strikes. I mean, it's a very obvious action. No attempt whatsoever to. I'm standing over here.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are the muscle. I get it.
Yeah. So, okay. You folks walk up, and as you get about 7 meters apart, you hear it's at that range. It's practically impossible. Aquidian will actually pull his hood back, so it's much easier to see who he is. Because again, because of the way they're standing, they're backlit with the shadow of the wall, the shadow of the barrows. Their faces are basically lost. So Aquidian will pull his hood back. Good to see a group who's so punctual. Thank you for coming. He actually will sweep a slight bow and very graceful.
Our pleasure.
So tell me.
Alexandri curtsies.
Sorry, go ahead, Lucas.
I did as you asked.
He nods.
We're interested in, well, in what you have to say.
At this point, by the way, at this distance, one of the things you're all going to notice is that Alexandri has never seen it, but she is aware of this. But to everybody else, I think this is going to be an absolute surprise. All of their eyes actually glow. There's a very faint luminescence. Aquidian's eyes have got almost an amethyst tone to them. Whoever that is over there, which is kind of odd because the other two, you can't see their faces. Their cloaks are pulled forward to complete as a barrier. So all you can actually see is the very faint glow of their eyes. So the one standing beside Aquidian's eyes are almost this very faint reddish tone. Whereas it's a much more almost cyan colored, bright blue color from the one who's stepped off to his side, who's standing with their hands folded behind their back. I deeply appreciate your punctuality, and I do appreciate your willingness to meet me under what I know is suboptimal conditions for humans. He kind of glances at Alexandri for a second, tilts his head, and I actually will ask Spider to make his what skill are you using?
I think
to not be seen.
Is it deception that covers stealth or dexterity? I think
It's agility.
Yeah.
agility. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
stealth.
make it as okay.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
I'm guessing here that I don't have like any sort of advantage because of the lighting,
Yeah, they have incredible.
given that these people's glowy eyes.
Yeah, they actually have good night vision, so that's sort of their. This is much more their environment than yours.
Okay.
But let's see.
I do get a single advantage for my skill specialization in agility.
Yep. No, that's fine. So.
No. I'm not even using the same dice as last week, and I've got another exploding 20
Oof. All right.
for another total of 30.
Wow. Stunning rolls.
The system shift really works for us.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Spider was just testing you guys.
I was just gonna say he was going for the carry for the first little bit. You know, just now he's leveled. Now he's gotten to the AD phase and he's rolling. So yeah. So if any of them are aware that Spider is around, none of them are giving any indication whatsoever.
Yeah.
So which means they're either smart enough to not go, aha, I see someone, or they have no idea you're there, you're not sure which. But Spider bluntly has been doing this so long that I suspect his default condition is they just don't see me. But yeah.
Yeah. Could I use up my observant perk for the session to know whether they can see me or not?
It's up to you.
I'm asking whether that sounds like a reasonable use of the perk. It's that the wording is.
I'm okay with it. Let's do it that way.
Yeah, then I'd like to, I think.
Then if that's the case, then you're at that point you're convinced they have no idea you're there.
Okay, good to know.
They're completely focused on Lucas. One of the one standing beside Aquidian is largely focusing on Lucas. The one standing beside Aquidian is largely focusing on Alexandri, and the one standing off by themselves is very intently looking at everything but the trio. Obviously, the spotter, for lack of a better way of putting it. Yeah, in Spider speak, that's the spotter.
Yeah. That's the one whose job I'm threatening right now.
In a word, yes. Yeah. So, tell me, how's your first day in the city going?
It was grand. Mm-hmm. It was. It's always enjoyable to explore and see what a city has to offer.
And what does the city have to offer?
It's very vibrant.
You've
But,
arrived
we've
at a fascinating time. Beyond
You are in for a very busy season.
there are essentially two peaks, he says, gesturing. A bit of a light hand gesture. To Alexandre, he's very much someone who's used to orating to a noble or business crowd. His entire body language reminds you of a lot of people you've seen in Shining Capital who travel the Sineru circle of influence. This is beyond it out, our busiest season, with the close second, of course, being the harvest festivals. It's an auspicious time of year with the flood. Time of renewal, rebirth, reimagining. I'd like to be part of that, my own personal reimagining, if you will.
In what way?
Well, the first issue, I'll be quite frank with you, is I don't know any of you. I have no idea who you are. I literally was informed by... And the way he casually uses the next word, by the way, is probably going to twig both Spider and Alexandria. My spies informed me that you had arrived and were obviously adventurers. Now, I can only guess of about 3 places you would have come from, and with a quick check of the registry of the ship as to where you came from, that crosses one of those options out. So, I figure you're probably stuck in town for the next week to month. Which, of course, gives me an excellent opportunity to keep you from becoming bored. Nothing worse than bored adventurers, right? He grins.
Nothing worse than bored adventurers.
So, of course, the problem is as I say, have no idea who you are, which means I have no idea if I can trust you at all. So I have a very simple task to get started, just a little detail. Mildly illegal, just don't get caught and no one cares, simple enough. So the problem with being an elf, he gestures towards Alexandria, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, is longevity. When you're dealing with humans, they're slightly forgetful. So I loaned an item of mine to a personal collection of a chap living over in the judiciary. Unfortunately, he died about a decade ago. And his heir doesn't recognize the fact that the item in question is in fact mine, and considers that item now his by virtue of being in his father's collection that he inherited. You see the problem, yes? So in spite of me having had a few rational conversations with him, and even an offer to purchase my own property back, trying to avoid unpleasantries, we have enough of that in this world. No, very stubborn indeed. So I just simply need someone to pop in, nick it, bring it back. You don't have to hurt anybody, you don't have to break anything. If you have any skills, or if you... I don't even particularly care if you get the work done yourself. If you're going to orchestrate a puppet show, it's perfectly fine. That will tell me whether or not I can trust you to get simple things done, so that I know whether or not I can trust you with bigger things that need doing. Now, I completely understand if you're not interested in running afoul, potentially, of the law of this fine town. No worries. All I ask is you keep the discussion quiet, and we need never trouble each other again. I, of course, have compensation. My family finds itself in a situation of largesse, and so I'm well disposed towards sharing a bit of that with you if you handle these little tasks for me. At this point, the person standing beside Alexandri and the other person both pull their hoods back and are actively looking around slightly. They're both women. But the one standing away is built on a halfling frame, if you will, which is kind of odd for an elf. Clearly elven, clearly in one of the ebon elves, but like I say, much more the frame of a stereotypical halfling. The one standing beside Equidian is much more what you would think of a female ebon elf. The one standing off to the side, as I say, cyan-toned eyes, and skin is actually this absolutely deep color of navy. When I described Equidian, essentially is almost having literally obsidian tones in terms of the depth of the, there's a gloss to it, but it's a dark color. And by contrast, hers is almost, you saw the X-Men movies, Mystique, that's only a deeper kind of color. And the one beside him is ashen-skinned and she's got the red eyes.
What is the name of this heir?
Omandi. He's a relatively charming fellow, generally reasonable in most affairs of business, doesn't really piss anybody off. But, and I mean no particular ill will, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. I'm sure he feels completely entitled, but it is, at the end of the day, mine. And I would like it back.
What is it?
That's an urn. So about very shapely. I'll give you I have a painting of it, which I can give you, so you'll be sure to only take what is actually mine and nothing else. He has quite an extensive collection of artifacts and objets d'art. He's a very cultured fellow, very well heeled. He's benefited greatly from the arrival of the Confederacy.
Why did you lend it to him?
Oh, it was for a part. Well, I didn't lend it to him. I lent it to his father, and his father was doing a showing. And the idea was he was doing a grand soiree. It was, like I say, about 15 years ago. And the one woman standing beside him was close to 15. She says, "Yeah, okay, so close to 15 years ago. There was a decade after the Confederacy showed up, something like that. There was doing a." Hoi polloi, sort of an upper class. We don't call it nobility anymore. That's no longer fashionable. It's meritocratic. All the meritocrats were having a party and showing off their meritocratic artwork. Yeah, that. So he asked if I could, just as a politeness, if I could borrow something out of my collection to spruce his own up a little, so it wouldn't seem to. It's very interesting, borrowing things of artwork to show off as your own to look good in a meritocracy. But foibles, right? And it just never got given back to me. And honestly, it's not like I missed it much. I was busy, things going on. Turbulent times, change, fires, those things, And
Fires.
oh yeah, city burned to the ground. Screwed up my business for a decade. But anyway, so
Why?
I don't know. Someone set a fire.
No. Why now?
Why now? Because
Why do you want it now?
I'm in the process of tidying up my affairs. I have things to do. I have places to go. And it occurs to me that leaving little bits of my property scattered around this city is not in my best interest.
When do you need it by?
He pauses for a moment. I'm unsure of the question. Obviously not in the next 5 minutes. I would have hired somebody else who'd have done it by now. But I also would rather you do it before you leave sometime in the next 2 weeks to a month.
So before we leave.
Well, if you do it after you leave, that's going to complicate things. You'll likely take it with you, and that would upset me.
Do we have a
Does that
sense of
need
how
to give
honest
it
he's
to you,
being with
do we?
us?
I am welcome to anyone making an appropriate die roll to delve into that discussion.
Why not? Perception, I think, is the one. So I'll roll that. 16.
I guess the best way of putting it is you have a vague sense he's prevaricating, but he's definitely not lying. In other words, he's not telling you the whole truth, or he's... like I say, the difference between prevarication and lying is subtle, but it is there. He may not be telling you the whole truth, or he may be telling you a doctored version of the truth, but he's not outright lying to you. As far as you can tell, if there's an inconsistency in the story, you're not sure where it is. It's more his body language than anything. And you're not even sure where he's an ebon elf. You're not even sure you're reading that right. Like I say, he has... The best way of explaining it is he has that Grandmare's mannerisms in his broad hand gestures, his way of... he's very elven. And so he's very familiar. And so part of your brain is going, okay, when Grandmare does that, she's trying to hide something from her husband. And at the same time... but then he says something else, which would be, okay, but normally that would be telling the truth, and you can't do both of those things in the same sentence. So you're aware there's there's cultural differences, if you will, between Grandmare's kin and this lot. So, like I say, you're sitting right on the edge of success, I guess is the best way of explaining the die roll. So you're aware he's prevaricating, you just can't tell about what.
Well, have
Just
you got
want
that
to check
sketch?
something because I'm just like Chantel. I don't think Grandmare was the elf.
No, it wasn't. Okay, then it would have.
I think it was her dad.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I was remembering that. Then it would be dealing with Dad. Same answers.
Yeah.
Because,
I was a little, yeah.
Yeah, my apologies.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Sorry. Yeah, no, mentally I had it backwards for some. May I culpa on that? No, so it would be the equivalent of trying to deal with a father. Every once in a while, just the differences. But like I say, so his body language seems incredibly familiar, except for all the parts where it isn't. Okay, Chantal, you had a question? Okay, very good. Drew?
I think at this sort of like slight tense quiet, Spider steps out of the shadow behind Equidian on the side of his weak leg, and says, "This task will prove no problem to us, though I don't appreciate our being tested."
The reaction is both dramatic and instant. Equidian, for lack of a better way of putting it, puts his hands up. The woman beside him uses essentially the quick draw ability and produces a hand crossbow. Doesn't point it at you, but clearly has a loaded hand crossbow. And the person across the street, another woman, is suddenly holding handful of basically what are the Ebon Elf equivalent of Shurkian. No one's doing anything too quickly, but they're all very clearly waiting to see. You literally just materialized, and the two women didn't hear what was said. So what they're basically waiting to find out is if Equidian wants you dead. Equidian will, he literally, so he's got his hands up, because that's a reasonable thing to do when suddenly someone steps out of the shadows beside you, and he kind of wiggles the fingers on his hand, and you can see the two women put their weapons away. And he turns around, and he kind of looks amusedly across the street. Zadreza, we'll have to have a little chat. She kind of rolls her eyes. Take it up with our
Don't
boss.
be too harsh on your staff, sir.
They're not my staff, actually. He says with a laugh. And she kind of grumbles. She's giving some serious side eye to Spider.
Yeah.
Have you got the sketch of the urn?
There's this pause, and you can see all three faces are looking in different directions. All of a sudden, like, who do I answer? The one standing beside Equidian, who hasn't been named yet, will very slowly basically hand where you can see it, sort of thing, into cloak, produce a bone scroll, and pass it. A bone scroll tube. It's it's ivory, possibly bone. Heavily engraved. It's a small piece of artwork in and of itself, sealed with wax, sealing wax at both ends around the caps, and yeah, a little bit of it's a best way of explaining the color is midnight sky, piece of velvet wrapped around. You just pull on it, pops the cap off the one end, and passes that to Lucas.
How do we find you?
Oh, chuckles. At that point, the woman who just passed the scroll, the scroll tube says, "My name's Jazina. I will, if you ask," she chuckles. The Blue Sky Inn is known very well to almost everybody in this city. If you, the innkeeper knows me as Rachel Gray. If you leave a message for him, for Rachel Gray, he'll make sure I get it, because that way he makes sure he gets paid a couple of coins.
Very well. Expect word in the next few days. It shouldn't take long.
Before we finish, I realize you are trying to determine how far you wish to trust us, but I was wondering if you are able to give us a sense of the kind of work you would want to follow this up with.
Let's do it this way, nothing involving murder. How about that? I have a list of odd jobs that largely involve retrieving things, moving things, dropping off messages, and at worst, literally upsetting somebody's kitchen. No one needs to get hurt, unless you're into that sort of thing. I like my affairs. I like my affairs reasonably quiet, but if you're all into the mayhem, well, that's on you.
Ask. You want to know if you can trust us.
Seems a reasonable curiosity. Don't you agree?
Why would we trust you?
I have no idea. Excellent thus we have this little task to perform, and that you might grow to know us, and yeah, you'll know if you get paid, you'll know if there are any untoward repercussions, you'll know if you've been sold up the river, and really, who's going to be too fussy about a piece of stolen artwork?
How do we know it's yours?
How do you know it's not? This is the problem, he says with a smile, in that sort of charming way, which is immediately offensive to Alexandria, because she's used to being this sort of charm in a court, right? He's very courtly. He's got human court interactions down cold. So the problem with any stalemate is someone has to break it. Otherwise, it just stays a stalemate. So I'm asking you to trust me in a little thing, and in exchange, I'm going to trust you with a little thing. Well, slightly more than a little thing. If you were to run off and inform the authorities, it would cause me all kinds of grief. So technically, I'm far more at risk than you are.
Sandro, I don't think it matters who this object belongs to. Not to us. It only matters that Equidium wants it. And we can get it.
Allow me to offer you an assurance. It is only the thinnest of assurances, but it is the greatest assurance I have. You have my word, it is my property. And literally, if that is insufficient, it's probably a good time to stop now.
If you do not mind, perhaps if we could confer amongst ourselves, and then we could give you a final answer.
Certainly. It's a very subtle gesture of the hand. Spider will notice it automatically because it's technically thieves' cant. It's thieves' cant with an accent is the best way. It's not the way you would have used that, but you recognize the reaction between the two women instantly. And Jazina, the one standing beside him, says, just send word to Rachel. Let us know yes or no. And that way we know whether or not to expect you. Is that equitable? Asks Gwydion. No pressure.
I want to invoke my other perk.
All right.
Which is the Silver Tongue perk.
Okay. What does
If I
that
have
do?
conversed with once per session, when I have conversed with an intelligent creature for at least 5 minutes, I learn a useful secret of the GM's choosing about the creature. Can I choose Jazina?
No, she hasn't said enough the past 5 minutes.
Okay, then I would like to know a useful secret about Equidium.
Okay, so I'm going to have to do this as obtusely as possible because you don't you can't know the answer. But what I can do is give you the clue that gets you the answer. You realize the fact he's wearing he's wearing two, not one, two signet rings. Now, most people would only be a signet ring is usually a family crest or something. But he seems to be wearing two of them, and they're both very distinctive. Spider's basically going to have that committed to memory. Any amount of, you should be able to do a little bit of digging around to, possibly public archives, something like that. Literally looking at crests on houses, whatever. You may be able to pin what those crests mean. But right now, I think that's probably the most relevant. But like I said,
that's cool.
Because you've just arrived in the city, you don't have the social context to actually get the.
Yeah. No, that counts to me as a useful secret. That's cool.
So yes, he's wearing two signet rings, not one. At that point, Zadreza, the shortest lass who'd been standing as the spotter off to one side, will pull basically will very visibly and openly rummage in a hip bag she's wearing, and produce essentially a set of shot glasses and a bottle. She will pour some relatively thick-looking, sort of creme de menthe colored liquid into the first three glasses and pass one to into the first four into four glasses, and it literally sitting on a little platter. She offers them to you. Business is concluded, explains Equidian. A toast to success. We'll drink first, and we'll pour out of the bottle last, so there's no way we could have doped it, he says with a smile. I understand these things.
I apologize, but I do not drink.
No, perfectly fine. Everyone makes their choices.
Nor do I.
I'm sorry, Spider. Do me a favor and roll a willpower check. You're to not double take at that.
No, I mean, I definitely
just
scoff.
does double take.
I don't need to make no check. I just go.
It's not a check.
It's like
Alexandria does
the only time Spider's broken character.
Alexandria does pick one up because it.
And so does Spider.
Okay, so the other two, if that's the case, then actually, interestingly enough, the two girls will take glasses. Aquidian doesn't take one, actually. The girls will raise and both shot back. So at that point, they're actually drinking out of what it was they served you. Aquidian, Aquidian seems very patient, is clearly waiting.
I wait like 5 seconds after they've had their drink and then
And it just gonna
down
say,
it.
there's a little bit of babble back and forth. You all, who speaks Elven? Okay, the three of you. So basically,
I think all of us do.
just Lucas speak Elven?
Yep.
Okay, so essentially, there's these sort of the sidebar. Gosh, I don't understand why we're drinking the good stuff on a night like this. Shut up and enjoy it. Is basically what the two girls are going. So they'll
Enjoy the good stuff.
So yeah, I was just gonna say. So they'll so she'll recover the glasses from you. Everything gets put away very neatly. She's got little cloth. She'll wipe everything up. The cloth goes into a different bag. Everything gets put away into. She literally is carrying what Chevalier's and Alexandre's impression would be a diplomatic bag, but it's clearly a traveling bar, which is a really interesting statement in and of itself.
Surely that's all the diplomacy you ever need.
So, to success in your endeavors, Aquidian says, I do and thank you the indulgence. I hope you decide to sign on. As I say, I have a very fascinating list of little things that need doing, and your anonymity is your greatest asset. And he smiles at the elf and says, and apparently your skills are not inconsiderable as well. There's a slight grumble from Zadreza.
Just hope you never have to see what the girl can do.
Oh, I hope to hear hidden stories and whispers and rumors all the year to come, but not directed at me. No, not interested at all.
Good evening. We'll be in touch.
Excellent news. Be well. He smiles. Unfortunately, the sort of reaction when he smiles, Lucas's gut reaction, it's about as pleasant as watching a great white smile at you. It probably means you no harm, but that's an awful lot of teeth. That's just the immediate reaction. Is like, yeah, I'm not so sure that was friendly.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And any reaction that he feels, it would be masked by that aura of pleasantness that he's trained so well in.
So, and at that point, I'm not going to say he forgets about you, but Aquidian sort of immediately focuses on Jazina, after you, of course. And she'll snap her fingers, and he falls into step behind Jazina, and it's Zadreza that he's talking to, after you, of course, he says. And Zadreza will snap her fingers, Jazina will fall in behind Aquidian, and they will leave in a line, heading out the way you guys came.
Interesting.
Alexandre, go ahead and make a learning roll, please.
Four.
Okay. If there was anything going on in that scene, you missed it completely, for lack of a better way of putting it. Yeah.
I'm wondering whether I might make the same roll, but I think I sort of already know what's going on, so I don't
Well,
know.
for lack of a better way of putting it, the reason I asked her to roll is because she's explicitly part elven blooded.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I'm not sure where the line is between like.
let's do it this way. I don't mind. What I dislike is I want to roll because somebody else rolled. But if you actually have
No, yeah, that's definitely not. That's definitely not what it is. Like,
character reason that you think a roll is applicable, I'm willing to listen.
I mean,
I think.
could roll with disadvantage as well. Like it's sort of like you have,
Yeah,
you
well,
have studied,
the thing is,
but
right-
you're not like,
I don't
to
think
read about it.
I pick up on it as a cultural tell necessarily. But like to me, it immediately it reminds me of like all the kind of cultural mistells that you give in political negotiations, and chances are whoever was at the back of that trio was probably the one in charge. I don't know that I want to make a roll. I think that's just the assumption I'm going to make.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fair. Very good. Alrighty, folks, it's break time again. We'll take a few minutes, stretch your legs as you see fit, and after that, we'll either continue the scene with you folks in the, still at the Lake of Ancestors, or we will have you teleport back to the inn. And either way, you guys can chat or whatever it is you want to do, explore the town. It's been 15 minutes or so that you've been here, so it's not fully dark yet. So there's, I'll be like I say, it was very obvious that people were out in their party clothes and stuff. It's going to be a busy night of. A busy early evening of dining and drinking and all the other good things going on. So if you guys want to prowl around, you can do that, what have you. So we'll take a few minutes to decide what you want to do, and we'll be right back. Now what? So
Before we go anywhere or do anything, Alexandria has to turn to Lucas and be like, "You don't drink?"
Not anymore.
You were drinking at the inn less than 6 hours ago.
I know. Why are you looking at me like that?
Everywhere we have been up to now,
Yes.
you have drunk.
Yes.
Now you are not.
I'm having a break.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes? Now you're making me think that I'm not okay.
Because you drink. It's what you do.
Drinks,
well,
and he knows things.
there's more to me than just drinking.
no, he knows things.
Oh, I made that joke, but he didn't hear it because I was muted.
No, we heard you. They just glossed right over top of it.
Oh,
I
okay,
heard you
right.
clearly, and that's why I echoed it. That was brilliant.
Wow.
Are you going to not drink again?
Well, we'll see how long I can last.
Okay.
I made I don't know, what would I call it? A small promise to myself. Seems that, well, I'm not an alcoholic.
Okay.
And I want to see if that's true.
You say you're not an alcoholic, but you want to see if that's true?
Yes.
So you are an alcoholic.
No, I don't want to be.
Okay.
But look, I said no to one drink.
Good start.
Tell
Really
you what,
good though, eh?
Tell you what, that was one of the hardest hard no's I've done in a long time.
No, you haven't had many, Alexandru, but that one was fine drop.
Can you not talk about it? I could smell it, and it did seem like
I mean, you heard what those ladies were saying about it.
Okay.
It was nice, but we don't need to talk about it.
Thank you, Alexandre.
It had this sort of like rich, flowery flavor.
Araignée.
Are we done, Jasper?
Could move this somewhere else. We could find somewhere where you can get some food, perhaps. I'm sure we need to discuss what has happened, this offer that has been presented to us.
Oh, yes, I actually heard wonderful things about a place back near where we're staying. Certainly interested in finding out what the nightlife is like in the Red Brick District.
Do we have to just stay there? Can we?
No, but that district
wander?
is known for its nightlife.
Oh. Can we take a long way back?
Of course. We haven't seen nearly any of the city, really.
Yeah.
If we go around the east side, we can go past the governor's mansion.
Yeah. For perspective, by the way, the Lake of Ancestors, I believe, is about 400 meters across. To give you guys a sense of scale. I'd need to double check, but yeah, I think that was the measurement I went with. All right, so you are setting off, or are you going to hang out around the lake, or what are you doing?
I think we set off.
All right.
I think it would be a walk around the city to see what it looks like at night will be lovely.
Do me a favor, everybody, throw a d6 and let me know what you come up with. More interested I'm mostly interested in sixes and ones, but they all matter for something.
No, I got a 6.
I got a 6 as well.
I got a 4.
A 4.
Got a 5.
Wow. Okay, high rolls the whole way around then. Okay, so it's going to be really barking obvious as you are heading up the North Street. And by the way, because it's obviously been redone by the Confederacy, it is literally the North Street, and then you have the East Street. That's your classic cardinal point, and that's how they built towns. There are only basically 2 variations on it. There's the way that Breezy Point Bay, which is a central old town with then the cardinal roads coming out of that area, or this sort of box, and this is ultimately just a bigger version of that, but where the central road cuts straight through the heart of the box because it's just so much bloody bigger. But this is very typical, like I say. So yeah. So as you guys are heading up the North Street. You're going to hear an awful lot of music, just sound. It sounds like a bloody carnival coming from the direction of the governor's quarter. So you've essentially reached the area where I've got the little red pin at. I don't know if you'll be able to see that on the stream, but this area here, that is a bunch of statues, fountains, topiary, all clustered around an outside ring of these massive chestnut and oak trees that are just kind of huge trees that have been here half of forever, it would seem. And then of course the governor's district is out to the northeast of that, which you would expect to find it usually, honestly. But like I say, as you're going through this central square, this sort of hub, you can see there's a significant amount of the crowd is immediately veering off down the east street. And as I say, it sounds like there's a carnival going on in the direction of the governor's residence.
Can we go there?
Lucas,
Sounds good to me.
Lucas, by the way, can clearly hear the sound of armor. For lack of a better way of putting it, it's like music over the top of the crowd, the chink of plate mail. Yeah. So
I know that sound. Is it? This is Drew asking Michelle. I want to make a guess. Is this like a fight, like a match?
you know something. Given you, so what you. I'm going to say, given your background, your immediate impression is it's probably a joust, probably a jousting field. What you're hearing is what you're hearing is the mounted men walking around. Because keep in mind, this kind of thing is the equivalent of F1 racing.
Oh yeah,
And so
I want
guys
to
who
be
ride in their
there.
cars, they don't pull the suits off. They walk around in their hey, I just got out of a car outfit, right? And they look awful cool. The only difference is they pull the helmets off so they can talk to the pretty girls and the pretty boys, right? So so what you're hearing is probably the sound of some like I say, for each, you're not even sure how you heard that, but it's just so much noise. But yeah, the immediate impression is that's got to be a joust. It's got to be a jousting field. Like civilization, military civilization, man.
I know, right? I'm gonna look at everyone with a beaming smile and say, I have been missing these. And I'm gonna turn around and walk. It's like, come with me.
I guess we are
Toys
going
and
that
their
way.
toys.
Alexandri's following.
So the first thing is obvious. One of the things that probably is going to be striking as a comparison to Shining Capital is Shining Capital is irritatingly well lit. The irritating would be Spider's take on the whole matter. There are streetlights everywhere. Most of them are straight up magic. Because it's just too bloody expensive to have people running all over the place with ladders and blowtorches. So in many cases, a lot of the main thoroughfares, it's almost as well lit as a modern city street. It's only in the less advantaged areas, the places spiders used to hanging out, that the lighting falters, either by act or omission, if you will. So the light is, but this town is this city, in fact, keep in mind this is a city, there's anywhere between 10,000 11,000 people lives here, is comparatively poorly lit. It's not that the gaps you see in the nighttime lighting are actually there. What's interesting is that everyone's carrying party lights. Everyone's got the equivalent of glow sticks or sparklers or whatever in a riot of colors. And you can sort of tell, Alexandri's gut, is there something, obviously, the more people you have carrying lights for you, the cooler you are, seems to be the implicit social statement of what you're seeing. But yeah, so the city seems intentionally dim to let people show off their personal light, is the best way of explaining it. In contrast to that, the Gouverneurs area is brilliantly lit. I just actually realized there's a mistake on the map as it shows. The area in the top right corner of the, top left corner, if you will, of the Governor's Quarter is brilliantly lit, because that is in fact a tilting yard. And the stands are packed. There's a couple of riders performing now. It's essentially the medieval equivalent of hot dog and hamburger stands all over the place. There is all manner of drink of a dozen different flavors. There are minstrels performing. Like I say, it's got all of the aura of a modern F1 race.
Wonderful. This is Lucas in a happy place. I would say the most boyish that Lucas would be. He'd be looking at Alexandria being like, and also like pointing out and it's like saying, I don't know if you've ever been to one of these matches, but this guy explaining everything super fast. It's just excitement. And then like that pause watching the thing happen, like just wait. And then cheering when something bad happens, or like if something stuffs up, if one of the jousters is completely like out of their element, he's like, oh.
So,
like,
for those of you who are unfamiliar with the way this works, it's okay. That's what I thought. Corner to corner on the. From street corner from the central square to the next cross, just to give you an idea. So each of those city blocks is about 350 meters, just to give you a rough idea of scale. So with jousting, the way it works is it's very much in the way modern karate, for example, or modern fencing is done. It's all about scoring a touch. And the lances are intentionally actually partially sawed, so on anything more than a gentle impact, they shatter. And that's actually how you know you've hit the other person. Because a glancing blow, for example, off of a shield, or a parried blow, won't shatter the lance. So a point is very dramatic. There's this tremendous sound of breaking wood. There's this corona of shards flying in all directions. You know, the pumping of the fist or waving the broken lance in the air as they wheel around. And what's interesting is it's possible for both sides to score a point if they screw it up. So the hard part about scoring a point is easy. The hard part is not getting scored on at the same time. And that is the subtlety that makes jousting probably the complex art that a military man like Lucas would view it at. Like I say, the place is a madhouse. It feels like the whole damn city's crammed into this quarter. I mean, you know that's not the case, and you've seen big crowds before. You're all from Shining Capital. But for whatever reason, this air of festival is... Shining Capital has all kinds of stately things that go on. But there's sort of this unofficial rule: you won't have more fun than the most senior person in the room. And by definition, the most senior person in the room also tends to be the oldest person in the room. And so the fun curve drops off substantially at Sinru events. So this is probably almost, for someone, for younger nobility, if you will, this is probably the kind of stuff you've always wondered, why does it not feel like this? This is the electric air, that open celebration that's going on. And like I say, the best way I can explain, if you've ever been to a modern F1 race with the sort of electricity in the air, even as the guys are just doing test laps around the field, there are people in the stands cheering about test laps, right? It's got that kind of electricity about it.
Lucas, have you done this before?
I want to so bad, but no, I'm in no condition to do this. These are the elite.
I see.
I mean, for this area.
Right. This is weird.
Yes, but isn't it amazing? Look at the vibe.
It's a lot.
I know. A lot of people brought together by two people charging at each other, with big sticks that break on impact.
I think that sounded more impressive in your head.
Well, it's nothing like a good show.
So for context, by the way, there's probably somewhere, at a glance, you're not going to spend the time going 1Z, 2Z, 3Z, but there's probably 20 to 30 different folk in full armor of 6 different races, obviously all competing. At any one time, the way they usually do it is they'll go 5 ends. Best out of 5 is the winner. There's little treats and accolades being given out. The minstrels are cheering on and singing great songs and all this sort of thing. And whoever's there's sort of a couple of folks who are on deck because it takes a few minutes to get onto the horse, get their armor sealed up, everything ready to go. So, but anyone who's not currently competing is walking around these little idolizing crowds of folk following along, chatting with them and all the other good stuff. Yeah.
Michelle, are there any competitors just by watching that I'm like, they know what they're doing? Like, I should keep an eye on them.
I tell you what. Let's ask you a question. What do you think would be a representative way of finding out? What skill do you think makes sense to Lucas?
Oh, it would be.
Do you have like a perk about the military thing as well?
I do. I know pretty much everything about the military.
So you could look in the stands and and see whose merch is most prominent. Be like that guy.
Yeah, I'm like, who is? I mean, it would come. There's kind of 2 levels, right? Who's got the best equipment, like the armor, the horse? Who in that amount has the most money to invest into this? But then there would be a performative aspect of like, actually, who is the better jouster?
So it comes down to 3. There are 3 folk here clearly who are just straight up cut above everyone else in both their performance as well as their performing. Both their level of expertise and their ability to show off and treat the crowd, right? And you can just see that. There's one of them wins as you guys are walking around just soaking in this aspect, and I'm going to go around in a second and ask everyone for their impressions, but Lucas will see one particular match sort of in passing as oh my gosh, literally 4 out of 4, he basically wins it 4-1. All right, just the other, it's desperate. Yeah, very funny, Sammy. It's almost. Lucas isn't convinced he didn't let the last shot land into just so the other person wouldn't go away empty-handed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's a young woman who's equally skilled, who literally the first 3 passes, maybe possibly a bit of a mean streak, is all but toying with her opponent, literally using the tip of her lance to shove the other jouster's lance aside, and they just literally ride past. She's even trying. She literally bats their weapon away and goes back into the present arms and rides to the end of the field, and then goes 5-0. Like, just completely wrecks the other person. And then there's a dwarven chap, solid built, low, and yet probably the most outlandish color palette in his armor. It's reds, it's blues, it's purples. He's got sparklers, and it's almost just absolutely over the top, and yet rapier-like precision as he literally goes around the clock. He hits his opponent the left shoulder the first time, the right shoulder the second time, tips them just below over the top of their shield the next time, pings them off just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just randomly just hitting the most ridiculous targets on their opponent in a show of skill. Right. And so you've got these everyone else is doing a great job, but the scores are much more like 2-3, 3-3. But no, these are 4-1, 5-0, that sort of just. And again, the showmanship, the skill at arms is for someone like Lucas, I would think would be, holy crap! It's the difference between Mario Andretti and the guy who's at the back of the pole. It's just Schumacher and everyone who's been chasing him for 7 laps, etc. Right?
Yeah. Great.
What's Spider think of all this spectacle?
I think Spider is like somewhat nonplussed about it all. Like, it's all just kind of like, this is the kind of place or kind of event Spider's used to going to make money, because like people are distracted and they have money on them. But there's something else on Spider's mind at the moment, and I want to look around to see if there's like a sword combat side event. which I know there's sometimes wear it, like medieval justs. I don't know if that holds true here.
Yeah, absolutely. There is actually there's there are probably two different variations on the theme of armed unmounted. Probably a blunt weapons category, if you will, and then an edged weapons category. Now they're all rebated weapons; you're not really going to hurt anybody, but and then there's actually a ground, essentially the equivalent of a wrestling area, essentially an unarmed combat group, and there's different styles and approaches to it. It's not wrestling in the sense of the way we would think of it. It's more like an MMA sort of thing, where different cultures and different styles and whatever are all, and they're all just obviously. There's little trinkets being passed out and stuff like that, but it's entirely, it's all the effect, all of the value of a ribbon. There's no serious money being passed out here. This is literally for prestige and showing off. So no, there's no massive prize money that's being competed for. Everything here is about the show.
Michelle, I need to ask you another question.
Yeah.
How alcoholic were those drinks?
So, for lack of a better way of putting it, somewhere between solid scotch and a 2x4.
Okay, yeah. So I want to go to like wherever you sign up for sign up entrance, and I tell them that I approach the table and I say, I act as personal servant to Lord Lucas Edgewater visiting the city, and he'd like to sign up for a display bout.
You, sir, have just earned yourself a legend point. Thank you so much. I was so hoping you were going to do that. I'm just going to award that right now because that's going to be a fantastic next scene. I think we'll just close on that moment. What's Alexandria got going on in her head? Completely unaware of what Spider's up to, by the way. He's just vanished.
Yeah, for sure. Alexandria's eyes are huge and looking at everything. She's kind of trying to see everything all at once, but also like vaguely trying to understand what Lucas is actually saying for once. But she also would like to try to acquire some of these lights, because that seems like a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, sure.
If there's somewhere to buy them.
You're welcome. I mean, yes, absolutely. So for lack of, it's obvious that, the cool kids all brought their own, but at the same token, there's an awful lot of people who are showing up and doing the equivalent of buying at the door. And so just like any other place, there's you can get just all manner of glowy wand, glowy batons, sparklers, even little pop rockets and things like that. Anything that's going to glitter, fluoresce, etc. They've got 27 varieties and 2 flavors.
So Alexandria will get some of those, and then she'll just like braid some through her hair, and she'll carry some around, and she's just like lights everywhere. It's great.
I was just going to say, it's what happens when you marry a joust and a rave. It's the best explanation for what's going on here.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at mentally. So I'm glad you said that. Yeah, she's going the rave route.
Yep.
On that one.
I'm going to ask actually Alexandria to do a perception / notice.
Thirteen.
At some point, you're going to very briefly, out of the corner of your eye, you're not even really sure, because when you look over, the crowd like I said, the crowd here is heaving. So there's just this brief minute where out of the corner of your eye, what you're pretty sure you saw was Jazina and a noticeably taller, noticeably more statuesque ebon elf woman walking through the crowd. Ch1 was basically carrying the equivalent of an umbrella with a Chinese pinwheel on top of it, holding it over the other ladies. But the thing is, when you wait a second, the crowd had just gone foof, and you completely lost sight of them. But you're pretty sure that's what you just saw out of the corner of your eye.
Should keep an eye out again in case they turn up somewhere else.
Now, the interesting thing was is that nobody in the crowd was there was no obvious reaction. You weren't seeing the "don't go there" circle. You remember when your patron, your erstwhile patron there, Aquidian, walked into the bar, there was sort of this circle of "don't go there" 10 feet around him. And it was pronounced. No one wanted to get near the guy. That wasn't at all the effect you were seeing. Like, the crowd was completely not paying attention to the pair of them. Like, it was just perfectly normal that they would be there.
Good to know.
All right. So that's a thing you just saw, you think, perhaps. Chevalier, what's Chevalier think of all this?
So Chevalier is, I mean, part of him is sort of immediately gone into like, that sort of like bodyguard mode where it's like, you know, crowded place, there's a lot of people and sort of trying to keep an eye on things. But at the same time, like not in the same way that like Luke, he doesn't have any particular feelings one way or another about the joust, but he does sort of just enjoy, like he enjoys that other people are enjoying themselves.
Fair enough, yes.
Like he enjoys that energy in the area, and he's sort of particularly fond of like, well, he doesn't eat, but like when you have all those, like you have all the street vendors, you have all the stuff, and there's often like the technique behind and stuff. He's often kind of fascinated by things like that.
Yeah, how to do complex food simply with a limited equipment set. Yes.
Yeah, and usually by people who have been doing this for a while.
Yes.
And it's now just like it's crossing into that area of like it's, you know, they can almost make it look like an art.
Yeah.
They sort of just they can do, and you know, in some of those places, that's part of the experience. Like
yes, it becomes performative.
There's almost like a performative,
Yeah.
So he's definitely always enjoyed that sort of thing, but he is sort of being mindful that, you know, as much, you know, he literally just earlier that day made the point that, you know, they're kind of obvious, and it's like, if someone was trying to get them, this is not a bad place.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So
Alexandri would absolutely try to tie some lights around him. So
he would not stop you. He'd be like, all right, let's go.
good.
So, all right then. So I think probably 10 minutes after you folks have been walking around, Lucas, much to his surprise, while watching with he's probably spellbound at this point. Everyone's sort of wandered off, and he hasn't any reason because he's just absolutely caught up. He's going to hear the clear voice, the clear baritone of a terribly articulate, probably half elf, ringing out through the crowd. And on deck, Sir Lucas Edgewater.
What?
It seems to be coming from over there, you think.
I turn to where I hear that.
Yeah,
That voice coming
there's a crowd
from.
there. You can definitely see a crowd.
I'm looking around, I'm like, I didn't hear my voice. No. And I go back to watching
As soon as you turn around. And again, we are paging Angweir Lucas Edgewater. Please present yourself and make ready. At this point, by the way, Chevalier and Alexandri just heard that bit. They missed the first one. They just heard that bit.
What did Lucas do?
That's my immediate thought as well.
I'm thinking, what did I do? I'm going to walk over to where that's coming
It's a weird
from.
thought when it's like when something like that happens when you're drunk. You're like, oh no, what have I?
What did I do?
And so you're like,
I swear I didn't.
wow.
I swear I didn't.
So, are you? So you you make your way through the crowd, and it's
Yeah,
very
I'm going
obvious,
at-
by the way, that as you get closer, everyone's expecting you. Because of course, nobody knows who you are. But what I mean is that everyone's looking for the tall, obviously dashing knightly figure to be plowing his way through the crowd, heading for the on-deck area. And so, at this point, as you there's people getting out of your way as you're clearly striding over the direct. They have no clue what, but they because they know what to expect. They don't recognize you, but they recognize what you're doing. And so you get people getting out of your way, and there's people cheering for you.
All right. By then, I'm like, where is Jasper?
Where is Jasper?
Wherever like the appropriate place for a knight's like page boy or squire to be would be.
All right.
Hype man?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So so what it is it's they've got about a 5-meter diameter circle, basically where the sod's been lifted back. It's been edged with stone. It's a little bit raised. It's not actually flat. It's actually slightly almost raised in a mound. So there's a high ground and the edges are a low ground, and then there's a half-meter drop off the low ground to the area around. There's no fencing around it, by the way. But there's a distance back that everyone's obviously standing, because no one wants to get hit in the head by a random polearm that went by. So there's sort of the Darwin zone, there's an awful lot of there's people cheering, there's party lights going, there's all this kind and Lucas emerges out of the crowd.
As Lucas emerges out of the crowd towards the arena, I turn to the crowd and I shout, "My lords, my ladies, and everybody else here not sitting on a cushion. Today you find yourselves equals, for you're all equally blessed, for I have the pride, the privilege, nay, the pleasure of introducing to you Lord Lucas Edgewater."
And ladies and gentlemen, that is where we're going to wrap today's session.
Oh my god.
No one can ever blame Alexandri for revealing them from anything. Ever.
This is not Lucas's fault.
Yes, actually, it is.
Hashtag not Luke's fault.
You brought Spider with you. So.
Oh my god.
Alrighty, we only got a few minutes left, so there's no way to do a decent resolving the ensuing hijinks without interrupting the flow of it right there. So I think that's a good place. We'll trim it there a few minutes early for today. That'll give us plenty of time to say our goodbyes and everything else. And yeah, thank you guys so much. That was fantastic. I'm glad you all leaned in on so much of this. I had fun. I hope you did too. But it's that time of the day again. So goodbyes and where to find us all next. I'll ask Jamie to lead off if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, I'm Jamie Collette. I'm a voice actor based in Australia. You can find me on Twitter at Muffin Manifesto or on my website, jamie-collette.com. You can also find me here on Due Respite during the middle of the week on Eternium Gate. And not tomorrow, but next Sunday, I am directing Julius Caesar for Stream Shakespeare. And the elevator pitch is ancient Rome, but as a 1950s mafia gangster noir. So
I'm so got to see that.
I'm very keen.
All right, Chantal.
Hey, I am Chantal B. You can find me at Chantal B on Twitter. You can find me where I write at wordswithcolor.com. You can find me here for everything this channel produces.
Busy girl.
Yeah. You can find me complaining about my PhD. That's happening a lot at the moment. I'm really sorry, but I can't stop it. So that's how it is.
All right. Sam?
Hey, find me on Twitter at _RealSammyP. I'm also a performer and a voice actor. Last thing I did, you can hear me on, was in the text that's probably going to be popping up soon, was a chunk called Prodigal on the Penny Peep show. They've finished with that. All 6 episodes are out. They've started another. I think it's even a second one. I think there's a short one. Now there's even a new one out now. So I highly recommend checking them out as well. And I'm on Paddington Prowler on Mondays here on Due Respite.
Very good. Drew.
Hi, I am Drew, and you can find me on Twitter at DrewWilson. I also have a blog of sorts where I write little pieces, vignettes from Lucas's perspective. That is talesfromthetavern.wordpress.com. I only stream here for Unlawful Disorder, so I'll see you next week. It's been my pleasure to be here tonight, and feel very awkward in front of all of you.
And of course, I'm Michel Vaillancourt. I'm the storyteller and games master for this fantastic group of people. You can catch me on Twitter, MichelV69. You can also watch how I actually do all my game design and prep for these sessions, things like making the maps and stuff, on 902PE Gaming on Twitch. Usually streaming Sunday mornings, sometimes Saturday nights. Due Respite production is a product of Eric Shrimpicles. This is his idea, his brainchild. He feels very strongly about investing in stories, and I'm thrilled to be able to do this, and with this fantastic group of people here on Due Respite. So thank you all for joining us. If you're catching us on the VOD afterwards, thank you as well. We appreciate your time and your support. All the best, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. We will catch you later, either later in the week on our various other places, or this time next week for a little bit more, and we'll find out exactly how things go for Lucas and indirectly Spider. Bye-bye, everybody.